No booty. No booty at all. Not touching none of this. That's mine. That's all mine. So, yeah. So if she won't be with me, there is no booty.
I agree with Mike. No booty. Like I don't want you to see me naked while we're in a relationship. Which is different for Q. I should get like an applause. And no, the whole like spending the night by his house and he spending the night by mine. We can't do that. We gotta kind of just keep that out of the relationship.
I don't like too much temptations either. We can kiss if we can keep it.
Don't go to town.
Yeah, we can't go to town.
Can't go to town.
We have a theory about going to town, so mild kissing, but obviously no fondling to the point where it may lead to, to extracurricular.
No extracurriculars. Well, okay, let's be really, really honest. We all get tempted, but that to me is not a real relationship, and I've seen like how it can really unfold the wrong way. But I think another thing that I can't do is someone who's like not attentive to me.
No sharing. I don't like to be shared. I've done that. Sharing things. We're serious. This is it. This is how we rocking out. Just you and I. That's it. No extra people. No distractions.
If he's spacey and he's just thinking about other things and he's thinking about other girls, or he's like looking around
to stay focused, get back in the game.
I think those things are major no-nos for me. I can't.
And I would love to pray with that person as often as possible. That's about it.
So if you just joined us, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a recap of the last several weeks. We've been preaching a series called Relationship Status. And in this third service, we've been focusing on singleness and dating. Josh, a few weeks ago, he unpacked for us that there is a beauty in singleness. That when you are single, you get to focus your attentions on God and you get more of God. Last week, he started us off on dating and sex part 1. He outlined for us what it looks like or what to look for as you start a relationship. He pointed out that physical attraction is a good thing, character is a great thing, and the need to be intentional about our intentions. Today, in Dating and Sex Part 2, we're going to be looking at the ins and outs of dating, looking at how our relationship can honor God. And so I have the unique perspective of being the only single pastor preaching on relationships. And so I know where you're at. I'm going through the exact same things right alongside you. I'm not coming to you as a relationship expert. All I'm coming is with the scripture, believing that the word of God is the greatest guide to relationships. The Bible is the greatest love story. It's the fact that God loved us not because we deserved it, but because he desired it. And imagine, if we could just love the way that God loves, how amazing would our relationships be? And so my hope is that as we look at the word, that God will lay down the foundations and the building blocks of how we are to date. Right? Because as singles, the most important question, the question that we want to be answered is, where is Mr. Right or Miss Right? Right? This question, or our desire to find our future spouse, is based on the assumption that somewhere out there, we have a significant other who is meant for us. That someone out there was created for us, a soulmate. And this is why we date. This belief that there is a soulmate out there for us. When I was younger, I would tell my friends that I don't really care about when I meet my wife. I just want to know who she is. And essentially what I was saying was, it doesn't matter about the timing of when I met my future wife. All that mattered was that out there somewhere, there's somebody who would complete me, as if I was broken or incomplete. And this desire or our hope that there's someone who's perfect out there for us, it's not a new idea. Really, to be honest, I blame Disney for it. Right? Look at Disney movies. Right? Sleeping Beauty wakes up with a kiss from Prince Charming. Belle, a charming girl, she breaks the curse and turns the beast into a handsome prince. And look at Aladdin. Aladdin must overcome his lowly status to become prince and marry Jasmine. And this is not just something that we see in kids' movies. We also see it in romantic comedies, right? Which are all about Mr. Right meeting a girl, falling in love with that girl, and having a happy life afterwards. We imagine our lives, our dating lives, and even our eventual marriage lives to be like that scene in Jerry Maguire. Right? We all are looking for that one person where Tom Cruise confesses his love to Renee Zellweger and says, "You complete me." We all want to find that someone who will complete us. And although media and culture has played a big part in this idea, we can't put the blame solely on Disney and romantic comedies. I think as a church, the church hasn't done a good job in dispelling this idea either. Right? I heard pastors and devoted Christians say that if it's meant to be, it will work out. And if your relationship is not going smoothly, then it must mean that God doesn't want it to happen. But where does it say that in the Bible? Absolutely nowhere. When we look at the Bible, we see that relationships aren't clean, smooth, and easy. Instead, we see that relationships are messy, flawed, and full of heartache. Just look at Joseph and Mary. Even from the very beginning of their relationship, there was all kinds of crazy. Right? Here was Mary, a virgin, and yet she's pregnant. And so Joseph wants to leave her, but then an angel comes and appears before him and says, "This baby is from God." And so what does he do? He stays and marries her. Right? Joseph was a great man, right? A better man than me. I would have ran the other way. If I saw that she was pregnant, I would have gone. But instead, he stays. And the Bible is full of stories of messy relationships or imperfect relationships. We have Hosea, who marries a prostitute Gomer. We have Jacob, who marries sisters, Leah and Rachel. This idea that there is a person who, when we meet them, everything will be all right or everything will be perfect is false. And yet we still believe it. And we see it in the way that we date. All right, this myth, it plays out in two ways. The first is when we over-spiritualize dating and we put unwarranted and unneeded pressure on ourselves. Dating is just about finding our soulmate. And so in dating, we're trying to find that perfect match. But when we find something wrong about someone, we're quick to discredit them. But how do you know a person after one date? The other way I see this myth playing out is when we date to satisfy our own needs. Our thought is, if Mr. Right or Miss Right is out there, we're going to try our hardest to find them. We're going to try our hardest to find that one person who was created for me. And so we jump from one relationship to another, trying to find that person. Dating fits into our consumer mentality. Right? We're just trying to shop for a partner, but not just any partner, the perfect partner. And so we're never quite content because we see that someone else might be better for us. In this approach to dating, people are just objects, and their value is determined by how well they meet our needs. But the truth is, no one on earth can completely satisfy us. Right? Only Christ can. And the sooner we understand that, the sooner we can enjoy dating and marriage. Your girlfriend or boyfriend should not complete you. They should complement you. Only Christ can completely satisfy you. This idea of a soulmate, it's a myth. It's unbiblical and it's false. What this soulmate myth is saying to us is that out of 6 billion people, there is one perfect person for us. But what are the chances that you're going to meet that one person? And on top of that, if one person is off and marries the wrong person, that means the whole system is screwed. It's a chain reaction. That means people are meeting and marrying the wrong people. So don't take dating so seriously. Dating should be fun, stress-free, and enjoyable. When your mindset in dating is to find that perfect soulmate, it's anything but enjoyable. It just becomes a grind. Instead of going out on dates to look for your soulmate, just go out to look for friendship. Look at dating as a means of building friendships. It starts out as a friendship, and as you hang out with them more, you don't even have to call it dating. You could just call it hangouts. And as you hang out with them more, and as your friendship deepens, and you want to pursue something else, then start dating them. Right? I see dating as having 3 stages. The first stage is hangouts, where you're just meeting up with someone to start a friendship. And as that friendship deepens and you feel like maybe there might be something more, then you be intentional about going out on dates to see if there could be something more. And finally, the third stage is when you make it official and you become a couple. Dating should be fun, but it's also important how you go about dating. It's not just important about finding your future spouse. It's important in setting up that relationship with that future spouse. And what I mean by this is that dating is not just about finding that right person, but it's the practice of setting up the right foundation for a future marriage. Right? Who you are today and what you do today in your relationships will affect your future marriage. Your past will show up in your future. Your past hurts and struggles will show up in your future to become your future hurts and struggles. The problems or issues that married couples have aren't marriage issues. They're individual issues that show up in a married relationship. And so when you take 2 sinners and put them together, what happens is that you just get more sin. You get more issues. Your past relationships affect your marriage relationship. And that's why dating and how you go about dating matters today. And the fact is, the way that we're dating just isn't working, right? How do I know this? How do I know that dating right now is not working? I simply look at the divorce rate, right? Over 50% of couples who marry get divorced. And this is not just a secular phenomenon. Even among Christians, that rate is the same. So dating is not working. The way that we're dating right now is just not working. We need to rethink dating. The reason we date cannot be based on trying to find Mr. Right or Miss Right. It has to be founded and rooted in marriage. Right? The Bible, it doesn't give us much insight about how to date or about dating. It doesn't even say anything about dating. People in those days, they didn't date. The vast majority of marriages in the Bible were arranged. Even the first relationship was an arranged marriage. Notice how in Scripture, it never says that Adam fell in love with Eve. It says he acknowledged her as bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh, and then he married her. So in order to look at how to approach dating, you need to understand what it points to, which is marriage. And so we're going to be looking at the Bible to see what it says about marriage. If you could turn with me to Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 through 33. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21 through 33. And I know this is a marriage text, and so you may be thinking, like, why are we talking about marriage when we're here to talk about dating? But through this text, we can learn so much about dating. Right? Through this text, we can glean and take out so much about opposite-sex relationships. And that's why we're reading Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21. The verse 21 says, "Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. After all, no one ever hated their own body, but they feed and care for their body, just as Christ does the church. For we are members of his body. For this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. This is a profound mystery, but I am talking about Christ and the church. However, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and the wife must respect her husband. All right, the purpose of dating is not to find Mr. Right or Miss Right. It's not even about marriage. The purpose of dating is to find someone who in marriage will spur you to be like Christ. And that's why, if we could put up verse 25, Paul says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church. Our marriage relationship is a reflection of Christ and the church. The end goal is not marriage. The end goal is to be made into the likeness of Christ. Many people just want to find somebody to marry, but that's not enough of a goal. Your wedding day is not the ultimate destination. A far higher dream is to craft together a life of service to God and a love for Christ. And this is why you should not marry nor date a non-believer. Right? The Bible is clear that it says you should not be yoked with an unbeliever. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that Christians are better than non-Christians. I'm not saying that we should have an elitist attitude where we should separate from non-Christians. What I'm saying is that a non-believer will not be able to live out these words in Ephesians. Only someone who loves Christ will be able to submit like Christ. It's okay to compromise in a relationship, but this is a major compromise that will just make your relationship that much more difficult. Marriage with a non-believer is too hard, and I've witnessed it with my own eyes. I saw my parents try in their relationship, in their marriage, but it always failed. And the reason why it failed wasn't because of a lack of love, it was because of a lack of submission. Right? My dad, being a non-believer, he could not submit, and because of that, they got divorced. Falling in love requires a pulse, but staying in love requires so much more. Right? It's easy to fall in love, but to stay in love requires so much more. It requires Christ to be at the center of that relationship. The goal of dating should be to reveal Christ in relationship. Your objective in dating should be to show Christ to your significant other. By the way you treat them, by the way you speak to them, by the way that you think of them, and none more so than the way that you sacrifice for them. Right? Ask yourself, how is my boyfriend or girlfriend helping me to become a better person? Or another question, how is my boyfriend or girlfriend helping me to become a better disciple of Christ? In dating, don't look for someone who will satisfy all your needs. Look for someone who will take your needs and point you to Christ. Someone who will inspire you to holiness and a life of sacrifice. Sacrifice and submission are the key. Right? In verse 21, it says, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. We submit out of reverence for Christ because in Christ, in loving us, he submitted his life and gave up his desires so that we could draw near to him. Right? Submission for Christ wasn't about superiority. Jesus did not give up being God on the cross. What he did give up on the cross was his rights. He gave up his rights of being God. He was blameless. He was pure. He was sinless. He didn't deserve death, and yet he gladly gave it up to serve and to save us from our sins. In the same way, we are to submit in our dating relationships. So how is it? How do we submit in a dating relationship? Well, the first thing, you must remember it's not about you. Remember, it's not about you. It's not about you. Give up your right to be served and instead focus on serving. In our relationship, we assume that the person that we're dating exists to serve us. It's his or her job to make me feel good and happy. The focus is constantly on us and what he or she can do to please us. And this is most clear in first-time relationships. When we enter into a dating relationship for the first time, there are so many expectations of what a relationship should be. Where most first-time relationships fail is because of failed expectations. Guys and girls, we have such romantic notions of what a relationship should be, but that when the other person can't fulfill those expectations, what usually happens? You start to get into fights and you start to break up. We're called to submit to one another. And this call to submission is not of superiority. It's a call to give up our rights of being served and instead to go serve. You are not in a relationship to get out, to receive anything, but to give everything. And if you don't understand this, you will miss the beauty of relationships. When you're looking at your boyfriend or girlfriend to satisfy all your needs, you will be disappointed. But in it, if you instead you look at it in order to serve the other person, you will find fulfillment. Because when two people are serving and sacrificing for one another, you see that you don't have to worry about your needs. That other person is taking care of it. That's the beauty of relationships. You should be asking, how can I better serve you? What do you need from me? I've been dating for the last 7 months, and I promised Esther that I would never use her in my sermon, but I did get permission from her today that I could break that promise. And so our relationship, it started with like the 3 stages that I spoke about earlier. We started out we started out just hanging out, hoping to become friends, and as that friendship deepened, we became intentional about going on dates to see if there could be something more. And eventually, we made it official about 7 months ago. And we still argue today who made the first move. All right, I like to believe I did when I left a message on her Facebook about the greatness of Mark Wahlberg and his riveting performance in Transformers. And she likes to believe that it was her when she asked if I wanted to go watch the movie. The last 7 months, being in a relationship has been great, but it's also been challenging. There have been great times, but there have also been some not so great times. And what's helped us get through those not so great times is our one rule. Right? Our rule is that we can never go to sleep upset. Right? Just the other day, even as I was preparing this sermon, we got into an argument. And so I noticed that she was sad. And so anytime she's sad, I need to know why. I need to know why she's sad. So I started asking her, what's wrong? Why are you so sad? But she couldn't answer me. And the trouble is, she was upset but didn't know why. And I was upset because she couldn't tell me why. Right? I'm the type of person when I see that there's something wrong, I need to know why, and then I need to fix it as soon as I could. But that mentality doesn't work in our relationship because Esther is the type of person who holds things in. And sometimes it's not intentional. She just doesn't know the reason why she feels the way she does. And so it can be frustrating at times. It can be really, really frustrating at times. But what I've learned through the whole experience is that I need to give up my need to know what's wrong and try to fix it, and I just need to be there for her. What she needs from me is for me just to be there and to support her as she figures it out herself. It's not about you. In a relationship, it's not about you, it's about the other person. Dating is giving up your rights to be served and instead to serve. The question you should be asking in your relationship is, how can I serve you? And the second way we submit in a dating relationship is to be the better you. Right? Be the better you. We all have room to grow, but in a relationship, we want the other person to grow. We never see the change that we need to make in ourselves, but we're quick to offer suggestion for our boyfriend or girlfriend in how they need to change. But look at what it says in verse 25. If we could look at verse 25, it says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church And how did he love the church? He gave himself up for her. He gave himself up for her. God calls us to love our significant others just as Christ loved the church. And how did Christ love the church? Christ died for the church. Jesus gave up his life and died on the cross so that because he loved us. We need to follow Christ's example in our relationships. Just as Jesus died on the cross for us, we need to die in our love for our boyfriend or girlfriend. And the best way that we can die to ourselves is to commit to growing emotionally. Grow in emotional health. The best way that you can serve your boyfriend or girlfriend is to become the best version of you that you can be. The baggage you hold on to is not just yours. In a relationship, it becomes theirs because you bring that into the relationship. And we know that those who have been wounded constantly need approval, right? They think of themselves as victims, and so they constantly need to feel loved. They're needy, and they just want to be served. But when you can love yourself well, you can love others well. Emotionally healthy people are able to love because they are so secure in being loved already. Your capacity to love someone is not determined by who they are and their great qualities, but in who you are and your ability to love. Right? Let me say that one more time. Your capacity to love someone is determined not by who they are, but by who you are. You can't love someone no matter how amazing, how caring, how great that person is if you have not learned to love yourself and accept yourself. Your boyfriend or girlfriend could be the greatest person in the world, but it wouldn't matter because if you're not emotionally healthy, you're just seeking something from them. You don't enjoy them for who they are. You enjoy them for how they make you feel about yourself. And you will only look to them to fill a hole in your heart, and they will never be able to satisfy that hole. It's only from a place of overflow can we love our boyfriend or girlfriend. When you're emotionally healthy, you can love your significant other not for what they have to offer, but simply because you enjoy them. Grow emotionally by learning to love yourself and allowing God to redeem your past. You are not defined by your past failures or your wounds. You are defined by God's glory on the cross. What past hurts are you holding on to? What trauma still haunts you today? Give it up to God and allow Him to breathe life into you. Be the best version of you that you can be so that you can be a blessing in your relationship. Be the better you. And the third way we submit in a dating relationship is to commit to deeper intimacy. Commit to deeper intimacy. Give up your right to physical intimacy and strive for deeper intimacy. In a relationship, it's easy to believe that you have the right to intimacy with your boyfriend or girlfriend. You believe that since you're in a committed relationship, that you have the right to be intimate with him or her. But look at what it says in verse 25. If we could put that up. It says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." And why? If we can put up 26, it says, "To make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless." The basis for Christ the basis for Christ loving the church and giving himself up for it was to make us blameless, without blemish, and holy. Right? And this is the same attitude that we should have in dating. We want to preserve the holiness and the purity of our boyfriend and girlfriend. And the greatest way that we can honor and affirm the beauty and the value of our significant other is by creating boundaries, especially when it comes to physical intimacy. But this is difficult. This is difficult because we just want to know if we're compatible with our boyfriend or girlfriend. And what do we base this compatibility on? Right? It's not holiness. It's not vision. It's not character. We base it on chemistry and physical attraction. While you may have once had a list of all the things that you wanted in a future spouse, that list goes out the window once you introduce chemistry and physical attraction. Your list might have been, I want someone who's caring, who's smart, who's funny, who loves God. But when you introduce chemistry and physical attraction, it just becomes, oh, he's cute. She's cute. They're Christian, so let me pursue it. And this is where it becomes dangerous. When our relationships are based on chemistry and physical attraction and just having a good time, we lose sight of why God gave us relationships. Instead of looking at dating as a means of revealing Christ, dating has become a rehearsal for our girlfriend to become our wife or our boyfriend to become our husbands. And this plays out often as couples live together. And this is so dangerous for your future relationship. A few years ago, the New York Times, they came out with an article about couples who live together before marriage. And what they found out, there were studies done, and then what the studies said were that those who live together before marriage are more prone to get divorced than couples who didn't. There's also there's no difference how we treat our boyfriend from our husbands. There's no difference between how we treat our girlfriends from our wives. And we also see this in sex and intimacy. Right? While marriage is of the highest intimacy we get to see in the world, we see that people are having sex just to see if they're sexually compatible. The truth is, you are sexually compatible with far more people than you are relationally compatible. I know that many of you are having sex. I know that if you're dating, you're having sex. I don't live under a rock. I'm not naive. Over 80% of single Christians today are having sex before marriage. And that's scary. That's scary. You're sacrificing long-term pleasure for short-term pleasure. You're giving up deeper intimacy for instant intimacy. Sex can wait. Physical intimacy can wait. What strengthens and sustains a relationship is not physical intimacy, it's love. In pursuing a deeper relationship and friendship, you will see that sex will become that much greater, that much more enjoyable in the future. Sex doesn't help you discern if this person is the right or wrong person for you. It just makes things more complicated. Sex has the capacity to camouflage relational deficiencies and dysfunctions. Right? You would have addressed relational challenges quicker if you didn't get involved physically. So how far is too far? Right? That's the question that we all want to know. How far is too far? Laura Winner, she's a writer, and she wrote this book, this great book on sex called Real Sex, The Naked Truth About Chastity. And in her book, she says that a good rule of thumb for physical intimacy is do whatever you are comfortable doing in public. Right? Do whatever you are comfortable doing in public. And when she says public, she doesn't mean like a dark parking lot. Right? She means somewhere that's visible, somewhere like a mall or a restaurant, somewhere where there's people. So if you're comfortable having sex in public, go ahead, have sex. If you're comfortable kissing in public, go ahead, kiss. I personally made a commitment in my relationship not to kiss. And it's been hard, right? I'll just be really honest, it's been really hard. Because there have been so many moments where it just feels right. Right? You know what I'm talking about. You know when the lighting is right, the mood is right. You're just gazing into her eyes, and you want to, but you don't. And I made it very clear from the very beginning that the reason why I'm not going to kiss isn't because of a holiness issue. Right? It's a relational issue. I told Esther that I would not kiss her, not because I don't want to, and not because I think of it as a holiness issue, but I told her I would not kiss her because I want to care and love her, not for how she makes me feel physically, but for who she is. And people will ask me, well, how do you know if you're sexually compatible? Well, I believe that the more I love someone, the more I will enjoy being intimate with that person. I do not want physical intimacy to drive my love. I want my love to drive physical intimacy. And so it's been an amazing 7 months, and I've been able to know and care for her in such a deep and intimate way. Right? Everything is so much more meaningful. Right? A hug is not just a hug anymore, it's so much more. You want deeper intimacy? Don't let your physical intimacy drive your love. Let your love drive your physical intimacy. Grow to love your boyfriend or girlfriend. And when you are finally able to proclaim your love in marriage, physical intimacy will be that much more enjoyable. It will be that much more beautiful. What is it that shapes the way that you date today? Is it your desire to find that person who will complete you? Or is it your desire for Christ to be revealed in and within your relationship? Relationships aren't for the faint-hearted. Relationships are messy. There's no Prince Charming or princess waiting for you out there. There's only a sinner. And when you take one sinner and put them together with another sinner, your problems don't disappear. They just become twice the amount of sin. Relationships take work. But if you're willing to put the work in, it's a beautiful thing. While there is beauty in singleness because you get more of Jesus, there is beauty in relationships because you get to see the redemptive work of Christ. Christ is revealed. The gospel is lived out. And submitting to your significant other, they get to see Christ in you. This is why dating matters. Let's pray.